So, do any of you recall during this time where we were getting games that acted as sequels to the movies? There were a lot during this generation. Even some Pixar games did this. In fact, the next game I'm looking at after this, Cars, is actually a sequel to the movie. These games were always fascinating to come back to, especially if the movie in question actually gets a real sequel. So, Incredibles 2, right? It came out 14 years after the original movie. But did you know that before then, there was already an Incredibles 2? Yes, so a long time before we got the actual Incredibles 2, we got this game that acted as a direct sequel to the original film, that being 2005's The Incredibles Rise of the Underminer. Now before I talk about this game, even though it's unrelated, I will say that the actual Incredibles 2 we did get, I do like. Is it as good as the original movie? No, not at all. It's not even close to being one of my favorite Pixar movies. It definitely has problems, especially with the main villain, but I thought the movie was really fun and I liked how it focused a lot more on the family than in the first film. I do really like these characters and it was great to see them again. Also, the film is absolutely beautiful. Definitely one of the best looking Pixar films in recent years. So yeah, the film is good and I think it's still a fun watch. But back to Rise of the Underminer. We have the same developer and same platforms as last time. So you might be asking, why am I talking about this game if it's technically a spin-off game? As I said before in the update video, I was only going to be talking about Pixar games directly based on the movie, no spin-offs or anything like that. Well, it's three things. One, I have a lot of history with this game since I played it when I was little, and I feel if I didn't cover it in this marathon, it just wouldn't be right. Two, I don't hear a lot of people bring up this game, so I kinda want to see how it holds up as a game and showcase something not a lot of people even know about. Three, to be honest, ever since that update video, I'm kinda thinking of covering some other Pixar games in this marathon that I wasn't planning on. Nothing totally set in stone quite yet, but we'll see. But yeah, I remember getting this game with my GameCube and I have a lot of fond memories with it. It was so cool getting an actual sequel to the movie, and hey, co-op was here. That was really cool. I loved this game a lot as a kid, but then I got rid of it for a while, and I wouldn't end up re-getting it for a long time. So for this review, I'll be looking at the PS2 and GameCube versions, since those are the ones I just so happen to have. And while I could have also gotten it on Xbox for better visuals and such, I think I'm okay. But anyways, let's see what this game is all about. So, since this is an original story, what's the plot? Well, it takes place right after the original Incredibles ended. Basically, the Underminer is planning to conquer the world by using these drills to turn the whole world upside down. So it's up to Mr. Incredible and Frozone to stop him and save the world. And if you're wondering what about the rest of the Incredibles, well, despite the game being called The Incredibles, it just focuses on Mr. Incredible and Frozone. The rest of the family just appear as cameos. In fact, in Japan, the title is actually labeled as Mr. Incredible, not The Incredibles, which I think is a more fitting title for this game, since, well, it's just Mr. Incredible and Frozone, that's it. Wait, hold on, Sega published this game in Japan? That's something I didn't expect. Anyways, the plot is fine. There really isn't that much to it. It's just, Underminer is bad, go stop him. I think it would have been really cool if we learned a little bit more about the Underminer though. Like, wouldn't you think since this game is literally named after him, we would learn a little bit more about him? But despite being in the title of the game, we only see him a few times, which is pretty disappointing. At least they give him an actual interesting plan, unlike the actual Incredibles 2 where he was just a generic bank robber. It is really cool that they actually got John Ratzenberg to reprise his role though, and he's great, and he even talks during the menus, which are really funny.
Better not be any pictures of me in there. That's all I can say. The robots make all their music with rocks. Knowing these controls will help you defeat me, and that can't be good.
For Mr. Incredible and Frozone, we don't have their original voices, but once again, the replacements do a great job, and I really like the dialogue exchanges between them. It's really fun.
Watch out for a cave-in. How deep is this guy gonna run? Where does he think he's going? China? on, son. The bad guys always run. I live for the chase. Besides, looks like you could use some exercise.
Hey now, at least I can still fit in my fursuit.
It's a barge, Frozone.
Boat, barge, what's the difference?
Well, a boat is really a generic term. A barge refers to a large, flat-bottomed vessel used for carrying cargo.
You need to get out more.
I'm just saying, there's a difference.
So yeah, the story is nothing special, but the dialogue makes it pretty entertaining. Now, graphics and environments wise, this is a big step down. Look, I get that we're underground most of the game, but I swear, everything looks the same. Like if I showed you 2 different levels in this game, you would probably think they were in the same level. The levels are mostly just brown tunnels with the exception of the first level, which is in a city, and like one ice level. Every other level in this game looks the same, which is a shame because I feel you could do a little more with the underground setting. The original Incredibles game had a variety of locations. You got cities, neighborhoods, a jungle, a base, a burning building. It's a lot more variety than just a dirt tunnel for every stage. The models are still good at least, it's basically on the same level as the first game, and the music is really good. It definitely fits well with the Incredibles setting. In fact, I might actually like this soundtrack more than the first game. I mean, we got some banger tracks in here. So yeah, presentation is alright, but a definite step back in a lot of areas, especially since this is a pretty late 6th generation game, and I would expect it to be at least on par with the first game. Now, gameplay is actually pretty similar to the first game. The only difference is that there's only one gameplay style this time. You control both Mr. Incredible and Frozone, and it's the same type of beat 'em up gameplay from the first game. I do like the controls better here than in the first game. I don't know, it feels more fluid than before. The first game controlled fine enough, but the controls here definitely feel more refined. Mr. Incredible can basically do everything from last time. You can punch stuff, throw stuff, and ground pound, etc. Frozone, though, can obviously freeze stuff, but he can also make ice bridges, and he can freeze projectiles, and you can throw them back at enemies. That's pretty cool. You can also upgrade yourself, which is a nice addition that I wish the first game had. Although if you fully upgrade the ground pound, you basically won the game at that point. So yeah, combat is pretty much on the same level as last time, and it's ultimately solid. But here's the thing, and alright, let's get into it. So the game is much easier than the first game. I mean, there might be some stuff that could give you trouble, but otherwise it was a smooth run, which I'm glad that it was. But at the same time, it just shows how bland the level design is. Like I said before, the levels look so boring, and the game itself is nowhere near as open as the first game. No real hidden areas or anything like that. It's all straight line, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but this is all you're doing for the entire game, and it doesn't change whatsoever. All the enemies are the exact same thing. No real changes between any of them, it's the same 3 or 4 robots, and the enemy pool was already pretty low in the first game, but here it's even worse because there's only like, 4 types of enemies in the entire game? So hope you like seeing the same driller and missile robots over and over again. I will say though that the bosses are much better than the first game. I mean, there's still nothing too special, and there are only 3 bosses in the entire game, but at least they're all different from each other, and they don't take 20 minutes to finish. There are also these bonus arenas you can do. I didn't really do these, mostly because they just weren't that interesting, but it's there if you want more content. But other than that, the game is very short. There are only 8 levels in the entire game, and it only takes 2 hours to finish. That's as short, if not shorter, than Monsters Inc. on the PS2, which, if you don't remember, was the shortest Pixar game I've looked at. And outside of the levels and the arenas, there isn't really anything else to do. I do love the inclusion of co-op though, and with a friend it can be pretty fun. I couldn't showcase it for this video, but from what I remember when I played it with someone, it was a good time. I'm gonna be real with you guys though, this was one of the hardest videos I've had to write for. I did 2 full playthroughs, one on the PS2 and one on the GameCube, just to see if I can get my thoughts fully on this game, since it was all over the place what I was thinking about it. I like the combat as much, maybe even a little bit more than the first game, and heck, maybe I'd rather replay this game more, if only not to play those last couple awful levels from the first game. I love that you can play as Frozone in this game, and the ideas this game has are really cool ideas that I wish were fleshed out more. But the first game is a much better experience overall. There's more variety, it's more interesting level design. It was a very solid game. Rise of the Underminer is not a terrible game by any means. It's far from the worst game in this marathon. But it just feels so soulless in comparison to the first game. Now, would I recommend this game? That is a really tricky question to ask. If you're really curious, I don't think it would hurt to try this game out. Again, nothing here is outright awful, and heck, if you have a friend, play it in co-op, that's a lot of fun. It is a pretty cheap game like the first game, and I think it's also on the PS3 store in the UK, although I could be wrong about that. Also, I'm not going to go into version differences since I looked at both gameplays, and neither version looked too different from each other. Maybe the Xbox version looks better than the ones I have, but I don't have that version, so the PS2 and GameCube versions are just fine, so pick what console you like best, pretty much. But other than that, while I did have a much smoother experience, and I would kind of rather replay this over the first game in some areas, the first game is just so much better, and I would go for that game instead than Underminer. But yeah, only pick this up for curiosity or if you really want to play this in co-op. Otherwise, you really aren't missing anything. And yeah, since the real Incredibles 2 came out a few years ago, this game is now rendered non-canon. Although there is one more thing I want to mention. So in the game, there is this song called Furious Frozen Fight. It's a pretty awesome track on its own. Well, in the actual Incredibles 2 movie, they actually use this song when Frozone shows up. Yeah, nearly 13 years later after the game came out, and that's now non-canon to the Incredibles universe, and what was thought to be a forgotten relic of Pixar's past, actually got a reference in the actual real sequel. How awesome is that? Yeah, just like a little fun fact I wanted to share. And that concludes today's video. Next time in this marathon, we're taking a look at the video game based off everyone's favorite Pixar movie, Cars. If you like this video, consider hitting that like button, and if you're new to this channel, click that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments if you've ever played this game before. I'm curious to see if you actually remember this. But yeah, I hope you all have an amazing day, and take care. Goodbye.